Hi everyone. I did my project on test anxiety. So we'll get started. What is test anxiety? Test anxiety is a psychological experience in which some of the symptoms that test takers experience are related to almost like an anxiety attack where they feel like they're in a panic state during a testing situation. Although test anxiety affects every single person differently, there are a lot of similar symptoms among students. Some of the symptoms that are experienced are tension, mental disorganization, intrusive thoughts, trouble sleeping, and lack of motivation. The article I chose to research was Executive Functioning Profiles and Test Anxiety in College Students. It was written by Patrick O'Donnell. What I believe the purpose of this article was to explain what test anxiety is and how having it affects you as a student. It really focuses on the symptoms of test anxiety and the negative relationship that it has with performance. It's important to try and find different kinds of options and techniques to treat test anxiety. How does test anxiety affect us as students? Well, in elementary school, we took tests. In middle school, we took tests. High school, we took tests. And in college, you guessed it, we still take tests. Taking a test can be an extremely stressful situation. In fact, mixing in the symptoms of test anxiety with taking a test makes it almost an impossible situation. Students can experience the symptoms all throughout their education. Elementary school students experience these symptoms as well as college students. Realizing you have test anxiety is just the first step in treating it. The second step is improving your test taking skills, and the third step is succeeding. What I believe the main parts of the article was what test anxiety is and what some of the symptoms are, the relationship between test anxiety and a student's performance, executive functioning and test anxiety, and different studies that have been done on the test anxiety. The author listed 3 hypotheses that he tested. 1, being executive functioning profiles of students will vary in severity and pattern based on level of test anxiety. 2, students who experience greater difficulty with working memory will have a higher level of test anxiety. And 3, students who report an earlier onset of test anxiety will experience greater difficulty with working memory. How knowing what test anxiety is can further your success as a student. It's important as students that we perform well on tests and exams for our overall success in college. Although suffering from test anxiety could potentially hurt you as a student, it isn't impossible to overcome and learn how to cope with those symptoms. There are plenty of tips for dealing with test anxiety. On the next slide, I will show you just a few of the ones that I have listed. If you go on Google or check any other website, there's a bunch more that are listed. Some of the ones that I found were just being able to relax before the test, approaching the test with confidence, make sure you're prepared for the test or exam, get a good night's sleep before, make sure you don't go in on an empty stomach, read all your directions carefully and thoroughly, don't rush, don't panic, relax because you are in control. I made a little quiz just to test you on some of the information that I gave you during my presentation. On this page, I'll read the questions, and then on the next page, I'll have the answers. Number 1, test anxiety only affects college students. True or false? Test anxiety is extremely rare. True or false? Test anxiety only affects students that are going to school for law. True or false? I'll give you a second to think about your answers. All right. Number 1, test anxiety only affects college students. True or false? The answer is false. Test anxiety affects students of all ages. Number 2, test anxiety is extremely rare. True or false? False. It is extremely common amongst students. 3, test anxiety only affects students that are going to school for law. True or false? False. Doesn't matter what you're studying, how old you are, test anxiety affects everyone. Thank you so much, everyone.